Yeah, please.
Yes. Thank you everyone for joining. This is the first interactive dialogue sessions on Kalachakra Mandala. And we have Morrison, Niraj Kumar, Dr. Yulis De Corpo, and Dr. Antonella Vanini. Has been hosted by myself and Aprotim. And we'll have many such sessions going forward, much more exploring different concepts. Today's concept is the Kalachakra Mandala and the Tantra. Because today is a very auspicious day, 31st August 2022, Ganesh Chaturthi, and it's the day when Lord Ganesha is born, who is known not only for prosperity and wealth and fortune, but also for unattached intelligence. And this is the point which I want to stress a little bit, because unattached intelligence only leads to Nishkarma Siddhim, which is doing the work without expecting anything for the results, very unconditioned way. The kind of way we need to do work over here in the universe. And so is the master of intelligence, and we are here talking about a higher sense of consciousness, not just mechanistic intelligence, but something which is much even higher than that. So we'll start with a little invocation. Shivakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurumedeva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. So with that, we will explore these topics of Kalachakra, Mandala, and Tantra at a time, at a very desperate time for the world, where we are facing energy crisis, climate change, ravaged by war and the pandemic and discrimination and recession, economic recession, unemployment, poverty, and all that. But the solutions are there. The tools are there for us to use. We have to inform people, and we have to create what we call Gnostic societies, communities, and connect with people by using knowledge, Prajna, and by using compassion, Mahakaruna. So that's the need of the hour. And now I hand over to Morrison to start her deliberations, and then Niraj would come in. Yes.
Yes, I'm very happy to be here, to be able to spend this auspicious time and this day, like amidst all of people who are having a similar goal and moving towards the same direction. And what interested me in this thing was Niraj Kumar's book on the Kalachakra Tantra, and it was released very recently, and there were talks about it. And it was very, very interesting for me to know that he, as a person, has given so much of a time and I would say unparalleled effort into a book which has never been written in the way he has seen it or envisioned it. So I would say that this book is very unique in terms of the fact that it approaches the myth of Shambhala, which has been there in the West for a very long time, and it's been mystified into something as a utopian wilderness, or as something which has been like the goal of the 60s counterculture movement. And people were talking about going to this mysterious land of Shangri-La and stuff like that, without really understanding the deep spiritual context and the real text, which actually talks about the geographical location of it. So I would really thank Niraj for really working on this subject and really demystifying and putting it forward, like what's the real truth about it. And it's a wonderful effort, I would say. So what I feel about Kalachakra Tantra is, as the name suggests, Kalachakra is the wheel of time. And as time, we know, he referenced the Buddhist concept of the pratyaya samutpada, which is dependent origination. And that the fact that with time, everything is decaying and everything is in the process of destruction or decay. So our main goal through this tantra was to understand how to reverse this process of decay and how to get into the different modes of siddhis. So you talk about the different bandhas or the seals and the initiation processes which helps us to overcome these bandhas. So at the first level, we have the water initiation, and then it goes up to the 11th or the 12th initiation level, the final one being the Mahamudra. And once I think a yogi goes till the 11th level, I think he's able to overcome a lot of physical causal barriers, like the first three being like the avidya, jara, and mrityu, which is ignorance, death, and inconscience. And we can even like there are references of yogis and siddhas attaining like rainbow bodies and bodies which are beyond death or any form of change or decay, and attaining like the highest level of wisdom possible, like while being amidst causality. So that's a very interesting aspect, like how to like go over these causal layers and like attain the ultimate siddhis, which was discussed by the Adi Buddha to the Shambhal King Suchandra. So I really am very fascinated with the fact that this work is very true to the original text, and also the text, like the parts of this tantra which was preserved by the post like Kalki kings, which were I think Yasha, Pundarik, and Vibhala Prabha's commentaries and etc. So Niraj has done a very brilliant job of going as close to the original, and also the fact that this text talks about, when I think you like the introduction to our today's topic started with the fact that today we are in a broken world where there are so many problems, like post pandemic and the war in Europe, and with so many financial distresses across the world, with economic recessions almost hitting everywhere. So I think like the three main principles of this Kalachakra Tantra, which I think Niraji said very beautifully, is to attain pushti, tushti, and shanti. So I really like the use of these words, which means like nourishment, satisfaction, and peace. And these are the three things which we desperately need more than ever now. So I would think that his work is something which is of the present and of the future. And I was really interested to also learn the fact this week that like what his vision is when he had put forward this Kalachakra Tantra, which is very beautifully described in the
I think we have lost her. Um, is that you
to
there? Yeah.
like probably 50 years down the line, maybe AI might be able to decipher these works much better than what humans can at this point of time. So his vision is a really grand one, and it's very futuristic, very modern. I haven't heard any writer like dealing with ancient scripts even think of this perspective of how the scriptures can be of use in the future uh, AI world, AI dominated world. So this is something very interesting, and I found that his work also talks about very deep like geographical research on the fact of deciphering the exact locale of Shambhal, and the fact that it's not in Mongolia, Tibet, as it's very often misunderstood to be. It's somewhere near, I think, as he has referenced in the writer half of Mount Kailash, or the northern part of River Sita, which is, I think, the current River Irrawaddy. So these are very interesting facts, and it's like more like we are entering into a kind of a mysterious journey as we go through this book. And I was so intrigued by his talk that the fact that he's explained them to trigrams and to like deciphering the tantra, the tantric Sanskrit verses, and also the geographical the plants which were found there, like sandalwood, banana, Spanish cherry, which are nowhere to be seen in Mongolia or the Tibetan plateau. So it's very detailed work, and I was very surprised that he has even given reference to food items that are even like consumed in the region of Shambhal, being laddus, puris, and like which are very Indian food items, not something which is very much associated with Tibet or Mongolia. So that's very interesting. And also the fact that the whole region of Shambhal is a village. It's not just a isolated place for meditation or like complete wilderness, but it's a place which is a conglomeration of sorts, like with different villages sustaining each other in a utopian uh, peaceful kind of a small mini civilization of sorts. So I was very intrigued with this kind of a very different approach to this concept of Shambhala and the concept of the Kalachakra Tantra. And I would really want to know more from Niraji as how he really approached this mammoth task, because he himself is not coming from any background which is related to mysticism, and he himself said that he was not at all proficient in Sanskrit. So I'm like unable to imagine the fact that how he could deliver this task, like by learning Sanskrit and then like decoding this text, which is such a rare text in itself, with a lot of his verses being very, very much lost to the very, very much lost to the highest orders. So I would want to know. And also I heard the fact that he had even done like finish his books, like even by jeopardizing his own health at some point. So I would want to know more about that. And this was my brief introduction into the humongous work and the unparalleled work called the Kalachakra Tantra done by Niraj Kumar. Like, please, I would want to know more from him.
Yes, Niraj, before Niraj comes in, I just wanted to mention one thing. You mentioned about futuristic programs which would be able to decipher, and this is some of the topics I think Ulysses is working on programs which are able to understand both qualitative and quantitative data to process. And this is one of the theories of Synthropy, where a software tool to deal with both qualitative and quantitative data. And the invisible force of love, I think one of his recent books, which is basically the whole principle on which Shambhala stands, a holistic place
Yes.
with an invisible force of love. So we would, that's why we thought that we would connect on a larger corpus. And now I would ask Niraj to continue from where Morrison is finished. And then I would ask Ulyss and Antonella to come in. Yep. Over to you, Niraj.
Good evening, Joy, and we have got two new team members, very senior. So welcome on the forum, and thank you, Morrison, for introducing this work. Actually, I thought you will be talking something on Kalachakra Mandala, so I was doing some preparatory work that we can start with some aspect of Mandal. What is the fundamental theory in constructing the mandalas?
This is a mandala
But
now. This is a
yes, yes.
mandala. Yeah.
Yes. So,
Yeah.
but you introduced my work and lucidly much better than what I could have done. So the thing is, ki, like, uh, there is a background to this work that I have written in my preface also in the book. So I was born in the Magar region only, and I was fascinated with, all these tantric sites since childhood. And when in 1992 I was initiated in Ramakrishna Mission by Swami Ranganathanadaji Maharaj, and thereafter uh, I had some kind of spiritual experiences, some very powerful. And thereafter from Vedanta I shifted to cremation grounds and these places. So I myself was not comfortable. Ki how come if I'm studying Advaita Vedanta and Upanishad and I'm doing sadhana as per Ramakrishna mission tradition, why I love to go to cremation grounds? And at that time I was introduced into Tibetan mysticism, some of the works, and then I was also being guided. I'm lucky to have been initiated by Guru Padma Sambhav himself in Dean and several times. So I don't know. There must be some destiny that I was taken to this side.
Excellent.
And from 2000, in 2014, I got this text, Sanskrit text. So I could not comprehend anything, nothing. In a way, for me, I knew nothing. So I approached several teachers, also Sanskrit professors, some Swamiji also, but not much help came. Then I decided to study along with my daughter. She just entered her class 6, and Sanskrit is the third language. So one had to study for 3 years. So I thought, I should start studying along with her and learn a bit of Sanskrit. So I was learning along with her, and also started deciphering the text. And then someone suggested me that if you do sadhana of Ma Tara, goddess Tara, so she is very propitious, and then you can have proficiency in Sanskrit. So someone suggested me. So I started enchanting Ma Tara's month, and suddenly things started coming up, like chapter 5. Tibetans don't follow the chapter 5 of Kalachakra because the Vimal Prabha which they follow. So in Tibet, that doesn't have chapter 5 translation. And that is the most important, significant part, because that is Gyan Patal, uh, ultimate, gnosis. So, and by God's
Okay.
grace, even chapter 5 became so clear to me. So I think there must be some forces in play who wants this text to be simplified. Moreover, my goal is not that I just want to locate what is Kalachakra Tantra and how that was linked to Nalanda tradition. In fact, I am looking it into from another perspective. Suppose in future we are seeing how artificial intelligence is growing fast, and like some people have been estimating that we may attain artificial general intelligence by 2060, 2070. So suppose we keep it 2070, and by that time even human population will be peaking at around 11.5 billion, the population. And surprisingly, in the Kal Chakra Mandal system, that what I was showing, the total number of villages in the whole Chakrawal, Jammu Dweep, that goes to 11.48 billion. So this too is very interesting, that the population projection for the globe is same what Kal Chakra talks about the number of villages. Like it's village here, but we are talking in terms of persons. So, but by that time we are also expecting that AGI will be in force, and uh, what I feel by that time machines will become conscious. In that sense, what is consciousness? First, we have to understand. The consciousness is basically it is Vimars Shakti, Vimars. And what is Vimars? So, if we say reflective consciousness, okay, awareness. When you start, or if you see, say, mirror principle, okay, when you can see yourself from a distance, that is consciousness. You are aware about your own existence, your own beinghood. So, if
Kida
whether
Bhasha.
yeah, so whether consciousness is computational, there's a lot of debate, but with Tononi's work, so naturally consciousness is also being measured, this consciousness meter. So in coming decades, I think we will come to know that consciousness is computational in nature. So what happens, say, when we have conscious robots? So will they also not want to uh, win freedom from the algorithmic prison? Everyone wants to transcend their existence. If they become aware, so they would also like to have a greater transcendental philosophy. So can do we have something like that? If we can provide a, a common template for humans as well as conscious machines, it's something for a future world religion. So I found this Kal Chakra Tantra because they are talking about a universal algorithm in the three worlds. That they are not only simply talking about humans, they are talking about different lokas, and they are also talking about the physical world, biological and symbolic universe. So three kind of different realm they are talking, and they are trying to find out a common algorithm by which this process of decay takes place, and can that be reversed? So I thought, and they have also numeralized that understanding into numbers. So I found that this provides a proto template for uh, future transcendental philosophy, because it's also numeralized. There's a proper algorithm. So uh, for me, this is a kind of reviving the text in that sense. That it can aid as a proto template for future world religion, which can be accepted both to humans as well as conscious machines. So that is my overall goal. Secondly, if how the Kal Chakra sees the world, because it's a very generic. They have gendered everything. You know, they enjoy diversity also, and it's a colorful diversity. Unlike other religious philosophy, they love that they have this rainbow as a metaphor, and the rainbow is everywhere in the Kalachakra philosophy. 5 colors. You have got 5 color birds, Garuda, then 5 color Naga. So you have got rainbows everywhere. So it's a colorful. It celebrates diversity. You see, so this is such a universal philosophy, but it is celebrating diversity. So at this, so I term it ki, this philosophy is a kind of paragon of globalization. So we need that kind of, and they are not only, though they have been people have been claiming that Kal Chakra philosophy talks about fighting against barbarian from Makkah, but within the textbook, they have discussed even Islamic philosophy. They are following the Islamic calendar. So this is interesting. They are trying to learn from everywhere. They have been talking about Jesus also, Moses also. So it's a purely synthetic philosophy that they have adopted something from Jaina, something from Islam, something from the Hinduism. So it's such a fantastic thing. How can, and therefore the monogram which they are using, they are saying Evam. So Evam had two meanings. One is similar, another is to add also, fusion. So they are talking about fusion of different epistemic horizons. Okay. And synthesis, a common word philosophy, and where that philosophy had to lead to, then they are not ignoring technology. They are also saying ki we want empirical knowledge. They have a section on technology. So they don't reject technology. So it's a life, life asserting, I mean, life abiding kind of philosophy. You have to accept the life. And even the Kalki king in the Kalachakra Tantra, he had 12 qualities, just like Pratis Samutpad. Everywhere you have got that cycle of 12. He married. So unlike other places where prophets they don't marry, and in particularly in the tradition they have left the family. Here no, Kalki king, he married. So, and he's a human, and he has a human nature. He can become angry also, even though he's soft spoken, but he can become angry. He can fight also. So this is such a a very very human kind of philosophy. And second thing, their goal is, you see, it's not only nourishment. For nourishment, pushti, you need technology also, but they also talk about tusti, satisfaction, and thereafter they talk about samras, universal delight. How to make everyone happy. That means their vision is not a particular Sambala. It is, if Sambala is a place where there is peace and delight, then they are talking to transform the whole planet into a kind of Sambala. It's a grand vision. And second, I just wanted to introduce a bit in a scientific manner, a bit about how they see the world. So for Kalachakra philosophy, everything in the world, every system, it can be divided into two halves, hemisphere. And you see the deities in the Kalachakra system or other tantra also, they hold the skull cup. Okay, so what is a skull cup? Basically, it is hemisphere, half of the sphere. The skull cup signifies that hemispheric thinking, and they are obsessed with everywhere you find ald. Ald means half, semi. So the mantras are comprised of the semi vowels in Kalachakra Tantra. So it is how your law that is being offered, often used. So they have been talking about every system as being half and mirror image of each other. So one half is and they have gendered that one half is masculine, one half is feminine. But on fundamental level, what are those halves? So masculine half is, it is Srishti sequence. Srishti means generation sequence. Okay, and feminine half is dissolution, sanghar sequence. Okay, sanghar means when you dissolve. So every system has these two things. It generates and it decays. So it is ingrained in any system. So they are looking at every system into two halves of generation and decay. Generation sequence is the right hand, right side, that is masculine. So then it becomes gendered, and the dissolution sequence is the feminine. Even alphabets have that kind of thing. So this is very interesting. Even alphabets have been gendered. So what happened? What is generation sequence? Then they say in generation sequence, things start from space. From space, it comes, what emerges is wind. From wind, what element emerges, it is fire. Then comes water, then comes earth. So we see how the density increases. And in the this dissolution sequence, Sanghar sequence, it is first earth, and thereafter then water, then fire, then wind, and ultimately space. So I will just show you one PPT. I would like to show. Then, so by that principle, we can see every system into that way. Okay, one is a generation and the what to say, degeneration sequence. So this is the basic tracks which has been used in the mandalas. So, and the generation sequence, it is in the proper direction, cardinal direction, say north, south, east, west. And the corners, south, east, north, west, these are, these are the feminine principles. So, in a way, they have gendered even direction, geography also. So, this is very interesting. I will just show one PPT, and then I would like to listen to others. Can I share? I don't know.
Yeah.
Can you see? No.
You can.
I need to share the PPT. I need to share the PPT.
You have to share the screen.
You need.
Share your screen.
Are you showing? Are
there's,
you showing
there's an
some PPT?
arrowhead where it is written present now.
Share screen.
Yes.
There's an arrowhead where you can see the dialogue present now. If you click on that, then
Yes.
you can share.
Activities.
Yeah, you have to click on the present now option.
No, I cannot read. There is whiteboarding. It is written.
Yeah. Is your PPT open?
A PPT is open.
Okay, then you
Whiteboarding start, and
you can see.
I can't see.
You can see. Okay.
Maybe the next time when we are on June, so I can say, or let me see a
Sure.
window, your entire screen. Yes.
You can also.
No, I've shared.
Okay.
Can you see? Share your entire. No, not this.
If the PPT is a small size, you can share it in the group as well. Then I can share it.
Okay. I will just
Okay.
share.
So
Yeah.
So you can share it. Meanwhile, I'll ask Antonella to come in. She is a practicing psychotherapist who has done a doctorate in cognitive psychology, and it's a very interesting area because we are talking about a holistic culture, a community, and that holism is actually present in our system, in our physical system. That's why we make difference between biological systems and mechanistic systems. Much of physics is based on mechanistic systems, and it's present even in the cells, tissues, organs, the way we go up and up, and the computational mode also increases, and this cell repair and regeneration, this is already there in our living systems. So in terms of understanding the cognitive psychology, and she's also working on areas of experimental psychology. So this process of unfolding of this Kalachakra, this technology, I would say, technology of consciousness, it has got many things to do with not only the physical system but also with the cognitive side of the mind. Because with the increase in understanding, there are premonitions. So we are into the domain of parapsychology as well. There are premonitions and the entire concept of decay, which the second law of thermodynamics talks about entropy, and how we counter that with retrocausality and synthropy. This whole thing comes in. I mean, this is a whole chain of areas, scientific, but all clubbed together in this entire concept of a point particle and then a circle with a mathematical precision, and that's how a mandala is all about. A configuration takes place, and here we are in a mandala. We have a small community, a shangoshti. So, Antonella, if you just explain a little bit on that and the areas of contact here.
Thank you, Joy, and thank you to all the speakers. I must say that I'm not that prepared today for very complicated speech, but I will say something, and the rest can be integrated by my husband, Ulisse. As Ulisse mentioned, I carried out some experiments about retrocausality and synthropy at the university in the domain of cognitive psychology. And definitely my experiments proved that human beings, they have synthropic channels or antennas built in the system. So life has, in my opinion, in the view of these experiments, they prove that existence has created human beings as antennas to synthropy and communications from more subtle levels, if I can use this expression. So human beings are designed for communication to subtle levels or divine levels of communication. And this is something that is a natural right of any human being on this planet. The hardships and the problems that we are facing in this period in particular, after 2 years pandemic and now the wars and everything, is because there is a part of this planet Earth, a system that doesn't want people to become aware of their true nature. So imagine if any person suddenly becomes aware of his divinity, for example, the fact that we are from a divine level, that death doesn't exist. We never die, because the soul never dies, and so let's imagine what could happen in the planet with 8 billion people completely aware of their true nature. Nobody will be able to scare people or to make them afraid anymore. So what I discovered through these experiments is something that changed completely my life and gave me hope, because if we follow the news, they're all designed to make you feel so scared, afraid of what's going to happen tomorrow and everything. So my message today is that I really hope that we can work together to let people know that there is much more that we can see, because the reality is invisible. It lies in an invisible level that is the most important, in fact, because that's the place where our life and soul comes from. And this is a reality that cannot be taken away from people. We really need to inform people and help them even with practical tools to become more and more aware. So I hand over the word to my husband now. If Lisa, you want to integrate and say something.
Yes, over to you, Ulyss.
The microphone is, Lisa,
You
microphone.
need to unmute. There's a beautiful book which he has written called Apocalypse and Synthropy.
Yes,
So
I update
so
that
we are
book
going
every
through some of
month.
these phases.
So tomorrow there will be a new updated version, and it can be downloaded free from our website. I'll send the link later.
Operative will send the description in the description box. Leave the information.
Yeah, in the channel
Yes.
will give it. Sure.
Yeah.
Well, the idea of synthropy is very simple. Is that in the energy equation, there are two solutions for energy. One that diverges forward in time, another one that diverges backward in time. Well, this second solution was considered impossible because it means that the future can affect the present. And so it was rejected in the 1920s, even if all the experimental data was showing that this solution exists. Then in 1941, a mathematician named Luigi Fantappiai started working on the mathematical properties of these two solutions, and he found that the one that diverges forward in time is governed by the law of entropy and the law of cause and effect, and describes the material world, whereas the solution that diverges backward in time from the future concentrates energy, increases differentiation, structure, complexity, and listing the properties he found himself in front of the properties of life. So I came to the conclusion that whereas the material world is caused by the past, life is caused by the future. So we are constantly linked to the future. We can feel the future. And the experiments that Antonella did in her PhD show that our autonomic nervous system can feel the future. And so we are constantly in between what our head tells and is linked to our experience and past, and what our heart and solar plexus is telling, which is linked to the future. And the Western society doesn't give any attention to this reality which is linked to the future. Well, the future is invisible to us. We cannot see the future. So Synthropy says that there is a visible side of reality and an invisible side. And the most important one for life is the invisible side. So life energy, consciousness, all the key elements of life are invisible. The big crisis we are in the West is because we have paid attention only to the visible side of reality, and so we neglected the key elements of life. Well, what Synthropy says is that life is converging towards attractors, and there is a hierarchy of attractors, and the last one is what we call the attractor of love. So the aim of life will be to reunite to this big energy of love. This process is not simple, since people try to attach to what they feel certain, and it is what you see. And in order to progress in this path, we need to abandon our certainties and be able to embrace the future. And the big crisis we're now in pushes a lot of people to abandon their certainties and to explore, and then find that we are all converging in the same direction. So even if we are in a very complex and difficult situation, I think that these difficulties are needed to push humanity towards a future of love.
Beautiful. I think what in a very short way, what he's saying is that we have to come out of our comfort zone. We have and come out of the certainty of the world of knowing what we know. And there is a lot of things that needs to be discovered. And one of the major things he talked about the heart and the head, and the convergence of that, and Niraj talked about the feminine side and the masculine side, and these two processes and leading to a convergence. And I like very much this entire concept, because it is someone gave me this title, and I think I shared with Ulyss as well. long before. It's called Back from the Future. So it's like
Yes.
talking about the retarded wave and the advanced wave, the concept in. Niraj, a quick comment on the deliberations, because that goes in sync with exactly the kind of processes we are discussing, we will be exploring in Shambhala. And then I would ask Morrison to come in before we close today's session, and then we will discuss few other things as well. Niraj.
I like this whole deliberation, particularly about. I came to know about the work of Madam Antonella. So, in fact, I would like one of the session we devote for her work on autonomous nervous systems. So
Yes.
that will be interesting for the world to know, and because there has been a lot of talk, even in, there's so much confusion in yogic texts. So about this sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic, and basically these things are being written by those who never have studied biology. It's better that we learn from what Antonella Madam had done the work. So that would be interesting. And what Professor Corpo has stated. So I'm still trying to, find some space to grasp the whole import of that, because that is, and again, even he talking about like if future does work upon us, therefore future acts as attractor, and finally love is the attractor, and love resides in heart, and that heart is also the Sambhala, the inner Sambhala, which we discussed 3 days back. So
Yes.
this is interesting. Finally, we have to bring back, human emotions, technology, and the planetary philosophy at one place. That is the only way out from the present crisis. Basically, it's a crisis of ideas also.
Yes. Yes. Morrison, you want to say a few things before I think Apratim will might ask some questions. He is now going doing research on these areas, so he might have questions for the speakers. Morrison, you want to come in quickly?
I would say that, like, all of us who have spoken here today, we are somewhere, like, as Niraji said in the end, like, it's just coming together with Antonella's thing of, and Ulysses' thing of the heart over the head, and with the Kalachakra Tantra saying that the end of it, it's love, and it's the feeling of creativity, and this whole creation is a feeling of creativity, and the fact that it's full of colors and it's full of forms, and it's for the betterment of humanity and all races together. But the fact that we are, and I also agree with the point that, like, probably this whole thing of things going haywire, and we are having a pandemic, like post-pandemic situation, having economic crises, all these things are very, very important for human beings to push towards the edge, so that they really have to figure the next step and try to change. So that push is required, like, for all of us to realize our true nature and our true potentials. So until we had that hardship, we were taking things for granted that everything would be just as it is. But these changes and these difficult situations give us that feeling that not everything is in our control, and there is some higher reality which we really need to discover before we start taking things in a very, very mechanistic, like, route, like the way world has been always. And also, I would say that Niraji's book also, like, is moving towards the direction of telling people the true Shambhala and the true place where to find it, rather than going into the mysterious utopian idea, like idyllic kind of situations which people had erstwhile in the past, like people were seeking out that we need to break away from society, like the countercultural movement, like we need to really find something outside our world where we can be at peace, rather than trying to find it inside, where like trying to embody it in the world, not trying to run away from it, but trying to change this where we are now. That's what matters more. So I think that this endeavor and this whole approach, and also like the works of Antonella and Elise, like it's very very important. Like even though like I would say Niraji had very very bad health, like bouts of bad health while he was writing this book, and he overcame that and he finished this magnum opus of his and he just completed it. And also the fact that Elise said that Antonella had also like faced a lot of difficulties while doing uh, the works on Synthropy, and everyone was not really appreciative of that. So that shows the amount of challenges that we have to overcome, and we have to really like put forward beyond our personal obstacles, like the whole vision for humanity which we have set forth. And our work needs to move towards that universal goal, like keeping aside all our personal problems and whatever we might face. And that shows the dedication we have to this like vision that we have for the future of humanity. So that itself is a very very big thing, and I would really want that in our future sessions we do discuss these problems that we all face, so that people can relate that working for such a common goal for the future of humanity is not an easy task, and that it needs a lot of dedication and a lot of self-sacrificing and a lot of soul searching to get to this point. And I would want that everyone comes up with their own real life story and the struggles that they had faced to their route to success. And that would be a really stepping stone and a life changing discourse, I think, which would be there online for people in future to really look back upon and learn from. So that being said, I would say that today's session was a very wonderful one, and I would thank everyone who gave their time to speak and talk about a goal which is higher than what all of us envision, which is for the betterment of the entire world.
Couple of quick questions. Pratim, you might have questions for Ulis or Antonella and Niraj.
Yeah, yeah.
Quick questions,
Yeah,
and then we can.
before some quick questions, I just want to make some quick comments first. That is,
Yeah.
this session was extremely enlightening, and I am truly blessed to be a part of this. And um, regarding Antonella ma'am's, I heard her saying that there are antennas in the syntropic system, right? So I have just completed my master's in technology in electronics and communication, and my central thesis was regarding antenna design and simulations. So I was very much excited to hear you say that, so we can converge both science and spirituality at some point, being both of them being the same two sides of the same coin, that is this universal reality. And regarding Professor Corpus, and I found a poem of Swami Vivekananda, and there he says that. Before that, I must say that my central point of starting in this spiritual path was in the philosophy of Advaita Vedanta, and from that I have grown interests in various domains of spirituality, Buddhism, and recently I have also started to read some texts on Kalachakra, obviously from Professor Niraj Kumar's works. And so the poem is that the lines, a few lines of the poem is that formulas of worship, control of breath, science, philosophy, systems varied, relinquishment, position, and like all these are but delusions of the mind. Love, that's the one thing, the soul treasure. So even Swami Vivekananda focuses that in this projection, that is the Maya, the only way we can get beyond is that is love, and all these are but secondary. The primary thing is love. So it was amazing and beautiful to hear you say that.
Yes.
And now the some quick questions to Professor Niraj Kumar first. That is, so this in this Kalachakra philosophy, so Kala is time. Now, in the philosophy of time, there are various concepts, like the physicists view time as the fourth dimension, along with the three dimensions of space. And even there are some philosophers who consider that time is nothing but a delusion. There is only change, there is no time. So how does Kalachakra Tantra or Kalachakra Mandala exactly view the philosophy of time? So that is my first question to Professor Niraj Kumar. Yeah.
The name itself is Kal Chakra, the wheel of time. So this wheel of time pervades everywhere, okay, across the existence. But that wheel of time, if we break Kal Chakra, Ka is for Karan, causation, cause. And then La is for Lay. La is dissolution.
Mhm.
Okay. And then Cha is for uh, Chal. Chal means movement. Okay. And then uh, Kal Chakra. And Kra is Kram, sequence.
Sequence.
So within these four letters, the philosophy of the Kal Chakra is summed up that this wheel of time, okay, how to dissolve myth. If you have to get out of time, it is all pervasive. So you have to dissolve the cause, Karan, okay, and then you have to stabilize your mind, which is moving. But all these require Kram. Kram is sequence. This is very important. There have been tons of philosophy, but no one says if you change the Kram, the sequence, then you won't get the result. So and what is time? Basically, it is flow of sequences only. There is no time if there is no phase transition. So they view time as all pervasive, but they also say there is a way to escape the cycle of time. For that, they like say there have been yogas, they have been prescribed, and how one can one can convert oneself into rainbow body itself and you escape time. So this is the overall view. Secondly, like we have been talking about three space and one time dimension. So generally accepted theory, we don't go into other string theory and these things. Now you just see, Kal Chakra is looking at squares, not basically, though it talks about wheel, but if you see all the body, there are squares only, a square within a square. In Sri Yantra, it is triangle within triangle.
Mm.
But then Kal Chakra, there is a reiteration of squares. Okay, it's a four dimensional world. And it is at four levels also, if you see. So there are four layers which I think 2 days back I was discussing. If finally it is the Kaya Mandala, body mandala, then speech mandala, mind mandala, and then you have got the gnosis mandala. So four layer and four squares. So they also grasp the same thing. Basically reality is full dimensional, but within reality you have the hierarchy also, the nesting of reality. So it goes at least to full dimension, and then it becomes a 16 full reality, which they talk in the last verse of the Tantra. Okay, so uh, but they have not specifically talked on time. That also I am saying. Throughout the text, there is not a single verse which specifically talks about time.
Okay, that's very interesting.
You have to decipher from the whole text what exactly they are talking about time. So basically, this is the thing. Time is all pervasive. It is a wheel, but then this wheel is always operating only through sequence. Without crumb, there is nothing, no time. Okay, and there is a way to escape this wheel.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you,
Excellent.
sir.
I think one of the takeaways is the word nested.
I think we would
Nested
really want to know
influences.
how to escape the wheel. Probably in
Nest.
one of the talks, like if Niraj can elaborate more on how to escape the wheel and how do the siddhas do in the Kalachakra Tantra. We really want to know that.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
we will certainly do. And one of the key takeaways from what he said right now is nested influences. I think in Ulysses' work also there is a bit of understanding of that, how the structure and the background, they are in a kind of a loop and they influence each other. So if you look at David Bohm's work also, it talks about that nested influences and one impacting the other. So everything is in a constant movement and crumb, this sequential movement, and how to change the sequence. That's the real understanding of, if you try to look at it from an automation point of view. That's what the yogis would do. How would they would change the sequence? And when you talk about retrocausality, that's already can be done. I mean, you can, perhaps the future is changing us, and we would go a little bit deep. I'll have to do a little bit of research on that. I think I'll consult with Ulyss on that. This concept of gravity not being there as well. If time is not there, gravity not being there as well. So people in Princeton University are working on some of these ideas, um, and something like d zeta space and anti d zeta space, where where the future holographic simulation is impacting, influencing us at every point of time. And maybe this is what the universe wants to, um, for us to go through the grind. In order to get to the end of the tunnel where there is light, we have to go through this grind. We have to take the hardship now. Why all of a sudden, if you see 2015-16 was very smooth enough, and all of a sudden in 2019, 20, 21, 20, successively, sequentially, it is becoming harder, right? And this is a deliberate thing from coming from the future, I think, impacting our lives, so that we move towards the higher lives, superluminal waves, maybe in that sense. So I think these are fascinating areas, and I think I will close this discussion with one or two words from Ulyss, and then we will discuss few things else.
It is a very complex field with
Yes.
people saying very different things too. Well, in my personal experience, I see that there are different ways how time works. Like there is the forward in time, flow of time, that is typical of the material level. Then there is the backward in time, flow of time, and this unitary time, which allows entropy and synthropy to work together and to play together. And so I think that we have to have an approach with time which is complex, not only one type of time, but more type of times that apply in different situations.
Excellent. So it was a very good event today, on the eve of Ganesh Chaturthi, and by the grace of the divine, we have been able to put together a very interesting interactive dialogue. So I think, Aprotim, once this is over, you can, once the recording is over, we will discuss a couple of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
I will stop
okay,
the
is
recording
it over
for
now?
that. I want to thank
Yeah.
everyone. It was lovely. Thank you so much.
And you can send us the link once it is uploaded. Now
Absolutely.
we will just discuss